So when we are born and cry and don't know why, dying, our life flashes before our eyes. When we fall asleep, melatonin is there because the pineal released it. The gray matter brain is a refraction continuum that is largely conservation of energy in potential output of novelistic input into environment, and why it's so ignored by control schema and fluoride. What is it? Kind of causing a degradation in the healthfulness of that gland to a calcified state where there's an extreme disconnect between that etherious body's ability, the distortion continuum fighting its ability to inject proper thought into the neuronal continuum. So fluoride is literally, because it's gray Project Paperclip come over mingle style of eugenics application to the mass populace. The gray doesn't like the morphogenetic field, it likes the bioelectric manifold with the AI. It doesn't like organic, but while simultaneously needing it to experience the theater of life by proxy. That's the symbiotic paradox complex. So back to DMT. So when we are born and cry and don't know why, slowly we learn, sensation, contrast, relevance too, so that our tears and our happiness have, the relevance of meaning, equivalency structure in the space-time, equivalency matrix up to that point. And so many years away, so you're 22, and you're sitting at a cafe, so it's like number 7 on the corner of Poplar or something, and ring ring, a bike goes by, it's red, and it's a girl with gold green eyes, and everything is in slow motion, and you take a sip of your hot honey ambrosia tea, and it's delicious, and slightly sweet, but bitter a little bit on the breeze. And but that's not you, that's space-time equivalency memory. That's just an example of that, a moment. And so it's not to draw us entirely out of space-time equivalency in perceptual consideration, to lose all faculty of the space-time orientation in the materia, but during that flash, what is happening? Just like with mescaline's, I would suggest that as it's what? Via San Pedro, very clean, and just the outer green with the outer removed, the plasticky outer skin, and blended with a modicum of citrus, so mescaline citrate. Nice and clean, and without all the extra entourage from peyote to just engineer that hexagon to go find its way kind of and clean up the equivalency, because when you trip, what is it? The glitch. It's like flickering on mescaline. That part kind of at the beginning when it comes on. Well, your etherious body has been drawn out into space-time equivalency and gotten lost in the refraction matrix of space-time, of living. And when it goes, and you're just your ethereous body, kind of, sort of, you're still tethered, but there's this kind of thing that's kind of washed through and allowed you to be consciousness almost inherently without, regard to equivalency consideration. But yes, and then we fall back in. And that's the trip. We're inspecting, inspecting all those from the clean vantage of consciousness without regards to all those. So we can go, oh, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. And by the end of we feel, this euphoric afterglow of, and that's why, because you've kind of worked out that stuff from a, a vantage that wasn't hypnotized into the moment reductionist. So DMT, it's flash. I've never taken it, by the way. I'm just telling you what it does. I've taken mescaline and practically every other interesting ethnobotanical, psychotropic, liliqui, taste-tested, dissociated. I even tried for aiding, lucid dreaming, that tracruno that's used in the ayahuasca, but just like microdose. My thoughts on DMT is that, that's the ejector seat of the soul at death. Do I really want to engage with that? That doesn't seem like, yeah, doesn't seem like I want to do that. So, I would highly recommend for that sort of perspective, if you're looking for that in psychopharmacological foodstuffs, San Pedro is your best clean bet. Yeah. It's not like I wouldn't ever try DMT or ayahuasca. It's just that I probably wouldn't. Yeah. Look at True Hallucinations. Terrence McKenna was much more interested in, wasn't he, the psilocybin mushroom. So, 42069, right? So, just a threshold dose of, which would be like, and you don't want to combine psilocybin and, say, lysergic acid diethylamide, right? That's very bad. You end up in a mental institution, right? But mescaline and psilocybin are very compatible, absolutely, especially mescaline and cannabis. Wow. Very compatible. So, just over a threshold dose. And then, what is psilocybin? It's like an antennae. Additional, like on top, your pineal and etheric body that's elaborating your telekinetic IO generalistically with the missing field. And having it, you're zeroed on the mescaline in a zero state, and then the psilocybin comes on to add that extra sort of antennae, right? So you have to build the launch pad, and then you put the antennae on, which is just a threshold dose as well of the psilocybin. But I would say that mescaline, too much overblown, that's a good thing to say, is the reductionist nightmare. Because once you're forced back into your pineal, you don't need to go any further. So it's just like a threshold dose that you want to engineer that. If you take way too much, it's that like reductionist nightmare because it keeps going, right? And you don't want that. Right? It keeps going in the, when it's already achieved, absolute zero. So threshold dose and that, and cannabis with the is probably best trip city. And so, did you hear the language I used and kind of the structural approach to this and how sort of articulate I was? This is how drug information should be, right? To the mass populace. Why isn't it? So you get drug, it's a bad thing. Cannabis, just as bad as heroin. Cocaine stuff, just as bad as weed, right? What's good? What's bad? It's hard to say. They're all bad. So cannabis is a corticosteroid plus anti-inflammatory, goes straight to your respiratory system and stops COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, right? It's also extremely fucking good for you if you don't overdo it and get that overblown cortisol build up and all that outfall from too much stress hormone. So apples and oranges. So I would think Maha should be interested in that extremely. In the these things are different. So here's a ideal utopia. Right? There's no illicit drug trade. When you wander into Walgreens, you have your pharma counter. Right next to it is psychopharmacological, entheogen, and, this makes it interesting, experimental designer entourage assemblies of and experimental, right? And when you buy these as a free-thinking adult in a free country in the world, hopefully that's the case, you wander in and you sign a waiver. And you show your ID. And before you purchase it, there's a thing called Arrowwood. And, that needs to be more so institutionalized to the, I guess, the root of whatever this endeavor would be, is each thing has a exacting description of what it is, what it does, its long-term outfall, potentiality if overused, and its short-term toxicity and dosage. So this is like what an actual free society would be. And then also, so you signed a waiver. Additionally, what will be offered is, so we've said, there's experimental things on there. Too, designer, whatever, that might, the pharma attached to this, might want to have study done. Anecdotal response to after post taking it. What was it like? What was your, and so you sign up for the study, right? Seems like a good idea. But nowhere on the list is what? There's no heroin on there. There's no opioids, fentanyl. There's no cocaine. There's no crap drugs that have been shoveled in as if the ideal pursuit of recreation available for reality humans, and only those, and all this misinformation about, well, since they're all kind of bad, and I took cannabis thing with Pookie over here in the trap house, might as well try all these other crap drugs, because this one didn't, so blah blah blah, and then now you're a junkie, and that's the story of every single one. So it's basically counterintuitive to the logic of the progress at many layers here as it reboots,
In your book about mescaline recently, you talked of a valuable state of heightened perception being induced by drugs, by proper drugs. Do you think imaginative writers would benefit by that?
Well, I think the people who would benefit most of all are professors. And this, I think it would be extremely
So
good
back to
for
this
almost anybody
approach
with
to the psychopharmacological endeavor
with
that
great certainty about what's
elaborates
what.
the creative endeavor and the experiential endeavor and, the pineal gland, right? So you have transhumanism as a causal trajectory for, and then the gray creature at the end of time. If you go that route and think that's progress. Or elaborating natural, evolutionary upcycling of the organ that is inherently present, the pineal gland, to more highly evolve. You might notice when you interact with actual alien species, Promethean, etc., that we come from. We don't come from a Bible thing. All of a sudden, hear magic stuff. We start somewhere else. There's like a movie called Prometheus. And so, the goal is to elaborate the endogenous communication faculties and telekinetic ability, that observer effect, and not treat the observer effect as risk in a risk reduction environment of control consideration. That prints the gray, right? We're trying to elaborate the observer effect. That's cool. So the Platonic shadows were gray all along, it turns out. That little devil in the Gigas Codex